All right, here we are. We're going to get ready to get started now. So this is welcome. This is the first session of season 2 of the Adventures in Middle Earth. The Road Goes Ever On. I have 3 of my players from season 1: Carol, Kyle, and Sean, and we are joined by a fourth player, Emily. Hello, Emily. So we're gonna get started because time is of the essence. Because of course we chatted the heck out of each other before we even started recording. So I think what we're going to do to start is I'm going to go around or down the overlay and just let folks introduce themselves and just tell us who they're going to be playing. We're going to start with you, Kyle.
All right, so since we're recording this one, we could do multiple takes, right?
No multiple takes. This is going to be just one.
All right, take one. Hi, my name's Kyle. I am playing Badu, the Bjorning Barbarian, a big burly man bent on destroying things that get in his way. And yeah, he doesn't like people who don't have beards. That's an important fact.
And that would be why everybody else in the party has these really bad fake beards stuck to their face.
Right, that gives you context.
Perfect. Sean.
Howdy. My name's Sean. I am playing the Dwarven Burglar, Wari. Pretty much attached to Badu, kind of at the hip. I wouldn't say that married-like, but definitely have been traveling together and got off on our own adventures and trouble together. Wari just is a normal dwarf burglar. He likes finding his way into places where he shouldn't be.
The bromance is real, Sean. The bromance is real. I've been with you guys the whole way, and I've been watching it evolve. I think this season is when, if Badu drops to a knee, you know it's gonna taking it to the next level. Just saying. All right, next, Carol.
Hi, I'm Carol. I'm playing Lily Took, the Master Scholar Hobbit. She's had a kind of a rough trip. She's like the one that wants to bring everybody together and make sure they eat their dinners, man. She's a hobbit.
Yeah, poor little Lily has experienced a lot. The loss of her best friend and quite a bit of craziness going from the Shire all the way to Rivendell. And now back again. Oh my gosh, you could write a book. But before we write the book, Emily, let us know who you're playing.
Hey, I'm Emily. I am playing a Dunedain Slayer named Lothariel, also dubbed the Stormcrow, since Dunedain tend to get names rather than give them out. And I'm new to this party. Hopefully I don't die the first session.
That's the hope. Perfect. So, quick little recap of season 1, in case someone hasn't watched the 20-ish plus episodes that we had. So, 6 brave people from Free Peoples of Middle Earth set out on their own adventures, and several of them met up with one another. Since that time, this fellowship has been cut in half. One of their number falling to goblins and warg in a battle outside of a ranger encampment. Another falling to the power of one of the minor rings of power, the Ring of Seven Jewels. Moira was tempted by this ring, and she took it for her own. Much through the devious nature of the previous ring bearer who tricked Moira into taking it so that she would be free of it. And then the ranger, Arafor, descendant of the great men of Numenor, probably the closest friend to the Rohirrim, Moira, chased after her when he had found out that she had left. So this brave fellowship were convalescing in Rivendell at the end of season 1, and so almost 2 months will have passed when we pick up in this installment of The Road Goes Ever On. And so my question for the three of you. We'll bring Emily in shortly. And I'm going to start with you, Badu. What has Badu been doing in the time that he has spent in the Valley of Imaldris, or the land of Rivendell?
So, for those who don't know, Badu is has no memory of his previous life. Before he met this Wari and his soon-to-be friends and adventuring party, he has no memory of what has come before. And for a while, he was fine with that, and he kept it that way. The past few weeks in Rivendell, after all of the many changes that have happened, he's started to reflect and look back. He has spent time meditating and training his mind to be in sync with his body, and he's starting to understand more who he really is. And a lot of what he has been focusing on is how he got to where he is now. So a lot of what he's been, pretty much all that he's been doing has been doing that, training his mind, his body, not really interacting much with others, but he has gone through a bit of a metamorphosis to turn away from some more of those just barbaric, just meaningless ambitions, and to move towards something that he can be fulfilled with.
Perfect. I think in that time, one of the things you would get some of the respect from the elves there in Rivendell. I think they would come to call you the Great Bear. My Elvish is not as sharp as those of the elves of Rivendell, but I will do the research on that and we'll make sure to let you know. But you would hear them whispering it, and if curious, you would find out that that's what they call you. Next, we'll go to Lily. What has Lily been doing in her time?
Lily, Lily has been spending a lot of time with the scholars and the healers and the elven lands and the storytellers, which she totally enjoys. And she's been studying up on the various herbs, and she would have been trying to collect some, which I forgot to ask for rolls on. But she would have been collecting herbs and learning their uses. She would have been spending some time with her friends, too, with Wari and Badu. But she's pretty much entranced with the elves.
Yeah, you would definitely, healing and whatnot is something that several of the elves of Rivendell are most renowned for. So you can give me a couple. Let me put up the roller, and why don't you give me a couple of nature rolls, and if you're successful, then you'll be able to restock your supplies. Yeah, so maybe the first few forays out into the valley, and the surrounding area of the Trollshaws does not garner you much, but you speak with a couple of the elves, and a few of them decide that they'll go with you, and they show you where the better places to look, and you're actually able to come away with some sufficient herbs, and even some of the more, you could probably, I would say, with that second roll, Carol, you could choose one of the more rare herbs from the book, and you could add that to Lily's supplies. Perfect. And it's a sad day when Lily has to say goodbye to the elves as you guys all start to head west, but not before we find out what Wari, the dwarf, has been up to in his time with the elves. I'm sure singing and learning to dance, right?
Definitely not in the beginning. Although he does like to play his flute every now and then. That was probably more to himself and or Badu. But I think honestly, Bori probably didn't enjoy the time in Rivendell as much as the others. I mean, it was definitely a time of relaxation and somewhat, but I think he took to items a little bit more. He hoped to have the broken Arnor dagger reforged. He probably also spent a lot of time messing with the, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, I'm sorry, the Hithlane rope that he got from Goldberry. Um, and probably about the ring as well. He probably pondered about the ring that Moira took and left. He probably felt betrayed for a while. And then kind of missed the clanship of his of all the other dwarves, especially since as they were heading probably on their way back toward Bree, he probably would have remembered a lot of the Dwan and Krim, who he started the adventures with, that ended up dying really quickly to the ogres. But I think after all that passed, yeah, he would have probably stuck with Badu and got back to his cheery old self, trying to get into trouble if he could.
Perfect. So it seems like there's a couple of things that were going on for Wari. So I think there would be some time where you kind of stew and think about what next the path carries for you. And it probably takes you that time too to build up the courage. I don't know if that's the right word because it doesn't necessarily. I'm not implying that there's fear, but or maybe it's just getting past your dwarven pride before you've been to the forges of Rivendell once before, and that was when the thought was that the ring was going to be unmade by some of the master smiths. But a few weeks later, we find Wari making his way down to the smithy, and you can hear the ringing of hammer on steel and anvil, and you can already smell the forges. And it's not long that you feel the heat, and you see several elves working their craft. One is dipping a red hot piece of iron into a barrel bath, and it hisses and steams. As he looks at you, smiles and nods, you see his face slick with sweat. Smudges of soot mark his visage and also the apron that he wears. Can I help you, Master Dwarf?
I don't mean to trouble you, but I was told your guys' forges are impressive, and he's kind of like nervous, kind of like rubbing his hands, looking around, not really sure how to answer, but but eventually, after a few, probably 5 or 6 seconds of uncomfortable pause, draws out the broken Arnor dagger, and I found this and was wondering if it could be made whole again or something.
You see the curiosity on the elven smith's face as he takes a step towards you and puts out a hand for the dagger.
I kind of just leave it there, not giving it to him, but allowing him to take it. It's kind of like a deathly metal chunk at this moment. I don't want to like stab him or anything.
Yeah. He gets close, takes it. You see him turn it and lift it up to give it better light from the orange glow of the forges. This is an old blade. What's left of it. Where he kind of his eyes narrow and he looks at you. Where did you find this?
It was at Weathertop, or no, sorry.
Yeah.
Weathertop.
Yeah, you're right.
Amon Soul. It was hidden among some brush and some rocks.
An ancient blade this is. We have the skill to reforge it. But you get this. There's a hesitation in his voice as he says that to you, and he hands the hilt and broken blade to you.
Oh, he takes it back. Oh, okay. he kind of just stands there, waiting, like, and
Um, he looks like he's going to turn and go back to his work. And when you're standing there, he stops and looks at you again. Was there more, Master Dwarf?
well, not to be rude, but you can, but how and when?
He smiles, and it's that probably that annoying lilting laugh of many of the elves. And he says, "We can reforge it. I didn't say that we would. Are you asking me to?"
Oh, if it wouldn't be so trouble and you're not busy.
He kind of wipes some of the sweat that's coming down near his eye, and he goes, "I'm not sure that I would have time for this. But I think the lore master is going to make you make a persuasion roll, Wari."
Oh, really? With my my persuasion, my really high persuasion?
Yes. And he kind of looks at you a second, and maybe you start to stumble a response, and he says, "I do not have the time right now." He says, his eyebrows kind of knit together, and he says, your kin, they are master crafters themselves. Why not ask them?"
I'm here, and they're there. I'm just, it's far away. I mean,
"Sadly, Master Dwarf, I do not have the time, nor do I think my kin do." And he reaches over and pulls the iron, now cooled in its the bath, and he drives it back into the hot coals. He reaches over and starts to pull the bellows, and they just kind of breathe. He breathes fire, air and life into these coals. He says, turned his back to you now.
or he would probably get his typical, like, freaking elves, like, in his head and just be like, It's all right anyway. The dwarves would probably make it better than you anyway." And he begins to walk out.
If he hears it, he doesn't give you an indication that he doesn't give you any kind of response to it. You just hear the bellows, and then you hear the sounds of hammers on steel and anvil again. Anything else that you wanted to do, Wari? It would seem that Wari is going to have to wait a little bit longer to forge that dagger.
That was probably the only thing that of big significance. The rest of the time was probably more interacting with Badu and all them, and trying to sort out his own inner demons.
Yeah. So the weeks pass. You guys are all able to convalesce. Before we started running the game, we did some behind the scenes stuff where you guys were able to regain some of your. I should, like, a little segue here. So we're no longer using Shadow like we did in season 1. We're still using a similar in the sense that we're using a mechanic called Resolve, which I am morphing over from, like, Call of Cthulhu, and it's based on 5 times the player's wisdom score. And it's a pool that, as they lose it, will bring them closer to that miserable status. So you guys were able to gain some of your Resolve back, and so the weeks passed, and you guys regain much of your strength. Many of your supplies are restored. I believe you guys had ponies, except for Badu, who has a horse. Excuse me. And you guys set out. It's a pleasant journey as you are led out of Rivendell by a small party of elves who safely lead you through the rest of the valley into the Trollshaws and across the bridge to where the Lonelands begin, and that's where you part company with them, and your journey continues westward across the Lonelands. The elves watch you until you fade from their sight. The Forsaken Inn is this time of year is not as crowded as in times of warmer weather. Fall has come, and with that soon will be the cold winter snows that will blanket the roads. That's where we find Lothriel. I'm hoping I said it right. Lothriel. Okay. I promise by session 3 I will have it mastered. Lothriel. You find yourself sitting in a near empty common room of the Forsaken Inn. The inn itself is very much run down, seeing much better days in times past. But the barkeep and proprietor of this inn, Jack, is sitting behind this makeshift bar. He's doing his best to look busy while he hums a tune probably well known to you. There are only a few other patrons there. They sit quietly nearby, and you sit close enough that you can hear them as their grumblings. Jack kind of gives you this scowl. You know he does not like your kind, the Dunedain, the Rangers of the North. He feels this is not a secret to you. Feels that your kind are nothing but rogues, bandits, and thieves. That you do little. That you bring more trouble than benefit. But he serves you nonetheless because your coin is good. And the others that frequent the Forsaken Inn are comforted by the fact of seeing a ranger. What is Lothriel doing now as she's sitting in this common room? Maybe a half-finished plate of food in front of her, a warm, near flat ale sits in a chipped cup.
She kind of dwindles between kind of picking at her food and full on taking a decent bite and chewing it for a bit. And after a while, she takes a few sips of ale and kind of settles and starts smoking her pipe, thinking about various things that are off at the back of her mind before drifting back into what she should be thinking about now. About rumors of Farmer Bill not coming up with his shipment.
Yeah, you hear a couple of these men sitting nearby. They're grumbling. You overhear one of them say, "Right there. Ask her. She would know. She's one of them rangers." The other one you see him look over his shoulder at you, hoping, taking a chance at making a quick glance and hoping that you don't see. And he looks at his friend, leans in close, and he shakes his head. He says, "I don't know. He said those rangers that use foul magics. To talk to one night could be cursed." The other man laughs. "You're a fool, man. Those are just tales told to scare young children. I'll ask her." And he pushes his way. You hear the sliding of his chair on the rough wooden planks of the inn. And this old traveler, you would say by his clothes, probably fine at one point, but now worn with time, stained. His cloak is travel stained. His face weathered and rutted. But he smiles as he approaches you, showing white teeth. "Good day, Ranger. My friend and I, we have a question for you." He's too afraid to ask, the fool.
It happens. What's the problem? And she gives a smile of her own, looking a little more cheery than she was before.
He looks at an empty seat near you at the table. He kind of shifts from one foot to the other, and you see him wring his hands together.
have a seat.
He kind of smiles, nods, bobs his head as he pulls the seat out and sits down. He looks at his friend and smiles like defiantly and with some sense of triumph. And then he turns back to you. So, Jack said that there's trouble on the road. Farmer Bill hasn't come by. It's not like him. Have you heard that? Do you think the roads are safe?
There has been some trouble around here lately, and I was just about to go up and see how he's been doing myself.
He kind of sits back. You hear the creaking of the wood of his chair, and his face takes on a much more dour look. So it's true then? You think that something could have happened? Wolves, maybe?
Either that, or he might have hurt himself. You never know sometimes. But it's always good to make sure. I'll probably come by sometime later and let everyone know if there is any trouble to worry about.
You see that your comforting words do little to change the expression on the man's face. He looks over at his companion as you're finishing, and then he turns his eyes back to you. We have to travel west, my companion and I, and I'd sooner know that the roads are safe. I think we'll stay here for a few more days, I think. And you see that he's kind of like maybe thinking out loud, less so than either telling you or fishing for some sort of reaction to that. But then he kind of like snaps back and realizes that he's still sitting at the table with you. Though I'm certain that if there's any threat, you will be more than able to take care of it.
My elders would certainly think so. But I've been new to the area, so I'm still getting my bearing. It shouldn't take too long.
You hear he stands up, leaving the chair as it is. He looks down and he gives you a nod and he says, "Best of luck to you."
And you as well.
He's about to say something but thinks better of it. And he goes back to the table and you hear the hushed conversation that happens between he and his companion. The journey across the Lonelands is almost uneventful. Unlike your first journey, Badu and Wari, your journey is aided by the horse and ponies that you have. The weather is unseasonably warm and rather fair, so you make good time. Your provisions are starting to dwindle as you see the Forsaken Inn coming into view. A welcome sight as the sun starts to drift and dip and below the far horizon, turning the sky a red and purple hue. You see the smoke rolling up from the twisted and bent chimney. The roof looking as though it's already starting to cave in, but miraculously able to still keep out the water. When it rains, you see the warm glow of light in the open windows.
Hey, Look, that's some decent food up ahead. He smiles.
At that, of course, Lily brightens up and looks at him. Oh, yes, a dinner. A real dinner.
Well, not that yours weren't great, Lily. Thank you, but I know what you mean.
There wasn't as much to work with as they would have here, I hope.
And Worries brushes off a few crumbs of what's left of his rations and tack.
Aye, but time to get to rest. I've grown soft in my time in Rivendell, I suppose. Kind of chuckles to himself. But if I remember correctly, the food's not that great.
Well, to be out of the weather will be nice.
Aye.
Lily pats her pony Copper. Come along.
Carol.
Cat ponies. Yeah.
Never learns.
You never learn. You don't name your horses and ponies.
No, it's the whole point.
I already feel.
When they die.
I already feel bad for Copper. But
You just
that's
offered
all
up sacrifice to the lore master.
Yep. You noticed their ponies have never died, but yours have. Anyways, moving on.
I have horses that were not named, also it doesn't matter.
You tie off your horses. Actually, you would know where the stable is behind the inn, and unfortunately, unlike more prestigious inns, this one you're intended to stable your own horses. So you guys would lead your horses out back there, put them in an empty stall, give them a meager portion. You notice that there's not much in the way of oats, but there's enough that you can fill the feed bags for each of your mounts, and before you make your way into the inn. The inn itself is near empty. You see a couple of middle-aged men, rough worn travelers by the look of them. They're sitting close to the hearth where a small fire burns. They pause for a moment in their conversation to look up at you as they walk in. As you kind of duck below the doorway into this room, Badu, there's a grunt from Jack as he recognizes you. And you're almost certain that you hear him mumble under his breath, "Ugh, not him again." Before you hear a much louder and more jovial, Welcome to the Forsaken Inn. It would seem that I have some returning customers. Sit yourself anywhere." And you already see that he's going about pulling out a tray, putting 3 cups on it. What will you have to drink, if anything?
And as Badu stands upright again as he enters through the doorway and he sees Jack, he looks at him with like a devious sort of grin on his face, definitely in a mocking manner. He says, "Hey, Jack, I see that you're still rocking that barren chin."
It's like one of those things where he didn't want to, but once you do that, his hand does drift up there and touches his chin. And then he realizes it, and he pulls it quickly away, and he says, "I believe I owe you a drink. What do you have?" And he reaches over, and you see him start to fill from a cask that is sitting on the bar.
He knew before Badu said anything.
Yeah. And he then and he looks at the other two of you. "And you look road weary and parched. I have the best ale east of Bree."
Well, don't be stingy then.
Yeah.
I'll have a little.
Yeah, he pulls out one of those half pints. What is it from the movies? Oh wait, Kyle doesn't know, but the rest of y'all. He pulls out one of those half pints or whatever they were drinking before. So she pulls out one of those for Lily, sets him on a tray, and then he brings it over to the table. Whatever. I mean, I don't know if you guys sit down, but I'm assuming you sit down. And so he sets the tray down, puts out your drinks, and he also sets out some bread that looks like maybe it was baked some time ago, but still has some semblance of being soft, and some hard cheese. Can I offer you anything else to eat? I've not much right now. My larders are rather empty. Expecting a delivery soon, most any day.
Well, what do you have?
Well, I have boiled oats,
Uh,
some radishes.
My horse is hungry.
Will you saute your horse? Yeah.
She likes oats.
any dried meat?
If Lily making a rare joke, you see by the look on Jack's face, he does not get it. He kind of like tilts his head to a side. You know, like when you kind of make a whisk, like a dog hears like a weird sound. He looks at the two of you, Wari and Badu, and he kind of shrugs his shoulders. He says, "Anyways, I have boiled oats, turnips."
Oi, man-child, do you have any real food?
Sadly, no. That's it.
Oi.
We'll be all right.
I guess I'll take some horse food. I smile at Lily.
Horse, did you say that out loud? Does Mari say that out loud? Yeah.
I do.
Lily kind of rolls her eyes for a second. Says, yes, I'll have the oatmeal too.
Yeah, he says,
Have you any herbs or spices for it? Perhaps a bit of honey?
he frowns. He'll say, and he at the request, and he says, but then he's like, his eyes kind of drift to Bardu, and then he goes, I'll see what I have in my kitchen. And he tucks the tray up under his arm, and he walks off behind the bar through an open door.
And bring me another ale. As
Lily
Bonnie
looks.
starts to chug.
He doesn't say anything, but you see his head bob when you say that.
As he walks off too, I turn to the others and go, "Forsaken Inn, it really the name fits."
Yes.
Maybe I have something in my pack we can add to the oatmeal.
You remember what I told you about the food?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not long before he comes out with a couple of bowls of steaming, like these boiled oats. They look gray and bland. There's a small little dish with a spoon, like a wooden spoon in it, and it's probably half full of honey. It's starting to crystallize around the edge, so he would probably need to heat it in order for that. But he sets it down. He says, "It's all the honey I have."
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. It will do quite nicely.
He sets an ale in front of you, Badu. But he smiles at you warmly, Lily.
Lily, as he turns away, Lily reaches in her pack and fiddles around for a second and pulls out a little twist of salt, puts salt on everybody's oatmeal, and maybe a little bit of spice that might add some flavor to it.
Perfect. Letherial, jump in anytime, Emily, if I say the name wrong, because that's how I'm going to learn it.
You said it right that time.
Perfect.
It rhymes with ethereal.
Ethereal. No, don't say that, because then I'm going to start calling you that. Letherial. It's like that thing, that trick that they teach you, right? When you meet somebody new, you say their name, and you try to say it several times, normally in the conversation with them, so it kind of drives it in. So that's what Letherial. Letherial, you're moving along through the wilds west of the Forsaken Inn. Would you give me a survival roll as you're trying to find any sort of sign of Farmer Bill and his wagon?
Nope.
Yeah.
I'm a poor ranger. Oh,
I
wait.
believe you have advantage, don't you?
Well, technically, I'm a slayer. Let me
Oh,
think.
you're not the I think
I'm not
what's
a
the
ranger.
you're not you're not a ranger. You're just a
I'm
Dunedain.
basically a barb.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, because you're a slayer. And just really quickly, just so folks know that maybe didn't tune into season 1, and when someone's a Dunedain, that I use the term ranger pretty interchangeably with many of the adventuring types, because that's what they would be, even if though mechanically they may be some other class. So you spend some time searching for this, for any sign of the farmer. You think that you find a trail, but when you follow it, it turns out not to be anything. You come across this farm, and a farmer and farmhand kind of look at you, and there's kind of probably that awkward moment, like, no, my name's not Bill, and I don't know anything about going to the Forsaken Inn, before you leave them to their chores. But so you spend quite some time searching along this the east-west road that leads from the Bree farmlands to the Forsaken Inn. And how do you take this? You're probably expecting it would be a fairly simple task: find this man and see what his delay is.
It's just an off day. I'm still getting my bearings in this new area. I mean, I've been around here before, but some things and pieces have changed, and I'm just off my game today.
Yeah, so you lose a day. Give me another survival roll, and see how you fare on your second day of searching. Wow. Is that what it's going to be like? Lothariel is going to go from one extreme to the other. There's no middle. There's no balance in her life. She's either I really suck or I'm going to be awesome. Your second day is much more. It's almost as though you put the day before behind you. Your challenge, your disappointment, and not long, early in the morning, you find tracks, and there's probably that moment when it's like, how did I miss this? It's so obvious as you see it now. How did I miss this? You see some broken branches, and you see these drag marks, and you see this rutted trail that it appears as though efforts have been made to hide the passage of this wagon. You quickly get your bearings, and you look. It's lightly forested, kind of sloping hill, and it leads down into the Midgewater Marsh, which lies between the road and the Chetwood Forest. There's probably a moment when you frown. Only foul things go to the Midgewater, but you follow the path anyways. Until you can start to smell that foul reek of the marsh itself. You can hear the buzz of insects and smell that thick, rotten vegetation. And you see the Midgewater ahead of you. You've been following the trail for several hours through the day. Off in the distance, you see what looks to be the makings of a wagon turned over to its side.
Alright. I draw near, and I have vigilance senses, which gives me advantage on detecting nearby enemies.
Mm-hmm.
I think I perception check real quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you take some time. You duck behind a tree as you look and scan the area. Your time as a Dunedain and tracker looks fairly safe. You look up to the sky and you see some birds circling around, carrion birds, which doesn't bode well, you would know.
One day makes every difference, I murmur to myself, and I draw nearer to him.
Yeah. You quickly pick your way. Are you doing it with any sort of stealth, or are you just moving forward?
I'm just moving forward.
Okay, you move forward, and as you get closer, you can hear the buzz of flies, and then you can smell death. Not the death and rot of the vegetation of the Midgewater. This is death. You smell blood and decay. And as you move forward, you can see a half butchered horse, its stomach cut open, laying sprawled out in front of this broken and turned over wagon. Several implements that were probably once within the wagon itself are strewn about the damp earth. And you see hanging across one of these broken casks, you see a small hand, pale and gray.
I touch the hand just in case to make sure he's dead for sure.
Yeah, you see a small boy, probably in his early teens. His head has been dashed by some sort of weapon. The grayness of his brain spilled out on the ground. The blood all congealed and jelly-like. You can already see flies have been starting to fester in around his eyes. He's cold and dead. His look of horror forever trapped on his face.
And it's just a boy. It's
just a boy.
Farmer Bill wasn't a boy, was he?
You can give me
I mean, one would assume so.
I would assume that you would probably you had spent some time in this part of Breland, so you would probably have known Farmer Bill. This is one of his boys. He has two boys. This is the younger.
If you're here, where is Farmer Bill?
You could give me a survival roll to see if you could find any tracks. Farmer Bill is not here. You see some just strewn about. You spent some time looking around, and the earth here it's at the very edge of the Midgewater, so tracks are hard to find unless you are significantly skilled in it. You haven't spent much time in the marshes. You probably think of one of your companions of the Dunedain that have, and it's probably this quiet curse as you say, I wish they were here so they could help me, but they are not. But you see no evidence of either Farmer Bill or his other son.
I take the boy aside and I wrap him up in whatever wrappings are left behind, and I'm gonna see if I can take him home to Farmer Bill's place.
Yeah, so you get ready to do that. You look and you find it's not ruined, though somewhat soiled, like a tarp that was probably once covering whatever wares were in Farmer Bill's wagon, now cast aside, worthless to the ones that had attacked this wagon and killed his boy. You start to do that, and it's only at that point that you hear this cracking and snap of dry branches coming from behind you. Is the muffled sounds of voices.
I slowly turn my head.
Yeah, you see several forms approaching you.
Are they like humanoid, or can I tell?
They seem to be bipedal and walking on walking towards you. They don't look to be I don't know if you're asking if it's like an animal, like a beast or something.
Well, like humanoid versus a beast, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it like misty so I can't really tell?
No, the mist of the Midgewater is further within the marsh itself. You're still along the forested edge, but they're these forms are shaded by the trees. One of them scampers from one tree to another.
I draw my sword and shield, and I say, "Come out!"
Lily, you hear someone yell to you to come out as you dash from one tree to another.
Lily, can Lily see her? I mean, if she's peering around her tree, can she
Your passive
see?
perception is...
Oh, let's see.
See, that's what I liked about our old overlays. I could always click on you and see your...
15.
Yeah, you see. Looks to be some sort of warrior of some sort. Pulled forth a sword. You see a butchered boy at their feet.
Lily calls out, "Who are you?" I'm sure that in her little high hobbit voice.
Wari and Bardu, you're there as well. You're just a few paces behind. You had hobbled your horses when you had seen this form slinking around this wagon. So anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I am Letheriel, daughter of Minotaur.
What did you have to do with this?
I had nothing to do with this. I came across this. I'm looking for Farmer Bill, and I found his poor boy.
Oh.
You can
Badu.
see no blood on my sword.
Her sword does look free of blood.
What? Come and see what I found. And Lily's not in a real big hurry to come out of her sort of hidey place behind this tree, because that's obviously an accomplished warrior, and she's still just a hobbit.
And Badu would come up behind her, and seeing this this other person here with their sword drawn, would take a hand back towards his axe and kind of peer around the tree, but moving in a way so that the light would kind of show his form, and he would lean in towards her suspiciously and say, "Hey, what you plan to do with that?"
Yeah.
Nothing, for now. And look, I wasn't sure what... Came here too late. Whatever did this is long gone by now.
What is Wari doing while the others are having this conversation?
Probably looking around, honestly. I would say staying to the, I wouldn't say shadows, but staying back and maybe trying to verify her story if I could.
Yeah, so why don't you give me a stealth roll, see how well you can kind of maneuver your way closer so that you can see her better.
What are you doing around here sneaking in the marsh?
Ha, yeah. There's a dry snap of a branch, and your head comes around, Lothriel, and you see another small form trying to move, flanking your position.
And
yeah, you see, I'm not the one sneaking about.
Hey, well, we've come upon you. here with a boy at your feet, dead. So you
As-
can understand.
As this is going on, Lily would like to also, either do investigation or insight or something to see if she can tell if this, watching this warrior, if she really is trying to tell the truth or not.
Yeah, you could definitely do that, Lily. But I'm gonna say it's gonna be at disadvantage given the distance between where the two of you are.
Okay. Let's see. Is there some way to make this roll at disadvantage? Oh,
Usually there's a toggle option on your character sheet. It should be at the top. Oh wait, no, that's on the D&D sheet, right?
yeah, no, there's
Yeah, when I clicked it, there was one too.
Oh, okay,
yeah, there
good.
should be. Always roll advantage, advantage toggle, query advantage.
Yeah, that's what you want.
I'll do query. Okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
Right above your speed, initiative, and armor
Yeah.
class, there's like a little.
No, there's not on this one. Investigation?
No, insight.
Insight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who are you?
Yeah,
Oh, it's too bad. She
She's-
can't really tell much of anything.
she's hard to read. Some of it, I'm not certain she wears a helmet of some fashion, but that kinds of hides some of her features. That with the shadow cast by the sun makes it hard, and her voice seems level. You recognize there's an accent to her Western that seems familiar to you. It probably takes you a moment, and you recognize it as an accent similar to that of your past companion Arafor and some of his kin.
At anything that reminds her of Aeroforce, Lily's, kind of taken back to how much she'd had admired Aerofor. Maybe they weren't terribly close, but he was, she certainly admired him and had spent a lot of time with him. So she thinks about that for a minute. Could she maybe try to sneak a little closer?
You can't sneak. This person knows you're there.
Well, that's true. And
You could come closer.
Hey, alright. This is how we're gonna sort it out. If you're free of guilt, back away from the boy. Let's check it out.
Could you say that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. It takes some getting used to. He said that if you're free of guilt, back away from the boy and let us check it out.
By all means. You still haven't given me your names yet.
Hey, that can wait. And he'll look down to Lily and kind of like motion her to go up there with him to check out the boy. He still has his hand on the hilt of his axe, but he hasn't drawn it yet. And he'll kind of move forward in front and get between Letherial and the mess before them, and let Lily kind of examine it and see how she feels about it.
Letherial steps away 15 feet.
Lily walks up cautiously with Badu, figuring that he can cover for her, but she still feels pretty little. And
Oh yeah, especially compared to me. I'm
Right,
literally
well, and-
twice your height.
so's Badu. But she wants to then investigate the crime scene, so to speak.
I mean no harm. I'm a ranger of the north.
Heard that one before.
Have you now?
Mm-hmm. And just stay right there.
So with an 18 on investigation, what do I find?
You find an overturned cart. Looks as though it was thrown. A wheel had been thrown as they made their way along through the wood, and its contents spilled out across the ground. Looks like it was pawed through and the more valuable stuff taken, and the useless stuff like this, a little small cask of nails, and tarp, some rope, and other hammers and whatnot, just kind of cast loosely across the ground. The boy himself, much like I had described earlier, his head was you'd have to be a medicine roll, I guess, to know really the cost of death. But you don't need the medicine roll to know that no one would have survived the injury to his head.
And also, I'd like to know maybe how recently. Shall I roll a medicine to find out about those things?
Yeah, that would be a medicine for it to know, like, how recently he had. Yeah, you would say probably within the last 36 hours.
But not recently, not like in the last couple of hours.
You don't believe that this woman killed this child. Not unless she's agonizingly slow in doing it.
Oh, jeez. So she looks up. She's like, I don't really think this woman is the cause of this. I think we can safely deal with her.
And Badu kind of looks down to Lily and then gives a bit of a sharp glance back at Lothariel, sizing her up a little bit, and then he puts his hand down and he says, "All right, apologies," and kind of loosens up a little bit to show that he's not as a threat.
And so from the other side of her, once that all taken place, so Worry would just be like, "So name's Worry."
And I'm Lily Took.
And I'm Badu.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Dwarf, Mr. Sabbat, and Bjorning.
Hey. And yourself.
Lothariel, daughter of Minotaur. Some people tend to call me Stormcrow.
Simpler.
Some would say so.
You, any relation to Arafor, another ranger?
No. I'm not related to him, but I've heard of him.
Worry kind of frowns at that.
We range widespread out. We hear parts and pieces of each other, and sometimes we meet each other and forget each other just as easily. I'll just tell you that I'm about this area patrolling because one of our fellows have died recently. It seems that there's some sort of trouble going about, and I see to resolve it. Fortunately.
Who died?
Wait, yeah. How long ago?
It would have been
Harry Mack.
Beginning of summer.
Yeah.
I think Worry would just at that point just throw his hands up in the air and just like turn around and walk off like 20 feet.
Yeah, we're familiar.
Oh, yes?
We may have, maybe we were the ones who found him.
Insight check.
Yeah, you can definitely give an insight check to that. Yeah, he seems to be telling the truth.
You found him?
Yeah, he got caught up in some bad business, and you were caught up in it shortly thereafter.
I see. Do you happen to know what killed him?
And Badu kind of takes like a seething breath between his teeth, not sure how to really tiptoe around that one.
Worry's eyeing you from like the other side of her, like over her shoulder, like. Mm.
And Badu like looks down to Lily, like questioningly.
Hey Lionel, I got a question for you though.
Yeah.
Do you remember if we still have the amulet or his dagger?
Yep.
Or if those were the ones that were taken by the creature?
The amulet
There's
that
two,
was
wasn't
in
there?
the amulet that you had was taken when you guys were attacked by the wargs. Remember?
Yes.
When you guys were camped along the Midgewater when you were heading towards Bree. Remember when you were attacked by the wargs, that the white warg actually took the amulet from Terry Mac's pack. The
Okay,
dagger,
so
the
that was
dagger was
his,
left
right?
behind. Yes.
Okay. But we do still have his dagger. Okay.
Right. But you found a similar amulet from Herlinen, who was Baralas's
Right.
companion.
Did we end up losing that somewhere along the line?
No.
No, we still have that.
Yep. I think
So-
you used it as part of your evidence to protect when you guys were talking
Right.
with the Thane of
Bree.
Bree.
So Badu would, after probably a very long pause and a lot of suspicious, looks between him and his friends, would, kind of nod his head back and forth and say, let's just say he was taken by the shadow. And he kind of like winces at it, like knowing it's not good news at all.
Ice, lots of ice.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. Letheriel, word of Terry Mac's passing obviously has reached the Rangers. Oh, we lost her. Oh, and she's back.
Sorry, my internet cut out.
Oh, that's okay. I'm going to need a second. I have to actually move your cameras around because anytime somebody drops out, it totally messes up everything. So let's just do it.
Yeah.
And this is the great
This is
thing
where the
about
editing comes
playing, and this is not editing it. It's going to be edited by not being edited. Let me see. So let me move people where they got to be. Badu is not worry.
What did I miss? I just
I was just letting you know that you would
just say he was taken by the shadow.
Yeah, you would know. You would know that that Terry Mac died, and you would know enough about his passage that that his death was associated with something unnatural. And I can't remember if you guys ever really told a lot to the Rangers that you had met.
I don't think we went into too much detail because the whole thing with Barrel Ass.
Yeah.
Because we found that out shortly thereafter.
Jeez. Right, Lily's where she needs to be, and I just gotta fix Emily's camera. Perfect. Yeah, it always stinks. The last game that I ran last Friday, the same thing happened. Someone's internet cut out all the cameras, but we were almost done. So I'm like, all right, everyone's going to be in different spots. All right. So yeah, you know that Terry Mac was killed by some agent of the Shadow. You don't know a lot of the details, but you know enough that what Badu is saying kind of resonates with you.
Yeah, I heard as much. It was a shadow.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. He looks very like
God
nervous.
You sound so shady when you do that.
Yeah. he looks very nervous. Well, and he is. He's like he's
Badu
very
is shady.
nervously.
Don't let him fool you.
Oh yeah. But he looks very nervously as he's kind of trying to say it without really saying it. He's just trying to kind of give enough to know that he actually knows what's going on and that he didn't kill him, but without like going into too much of the gory details. And you can tell he looks like visibly kind of perturbed about it.
You look nervous, Master Dwarf.
Yeah. What do you want with the dead man that's been dead for a while?
It's a boy. I was thinking of returning him to Farmer Bill's house. Maybe start from there, because otherwise I don't see any other trail to follow. At least get him a proper burial.
Okay, I guess that's at least good. But
Yeah.
traveled all this way to bury a dead man that's been dead for months.
No, I was looking for Farmer Bill, and I happened upon this wreck of where his son is, and now I'm no better off than I was before.
Oh, so whew! I think you see like Worry sigh a thing of relief, and he thought you were completely talking about Terry Mack.
I mean, I'm also looking for whatever caused Terry Mack's death, but parts and pieces.
Yeah. I would just let that one go if you could. It's not so pretty.
What makes you say that?
Yeah, I saw it. It wasn't pretty. Found him. It was pretty gross. But this boy, you should definitely take him back home.
Yeah, let's take a look at what's going on here. And Worry
Have
will
you
walk over
seen
closer to
the monster?
cart and stuff.
Have you seen the monster that to Terry?
In more or less,
I love it. I love inspiration, Kyle. I love the way you kind of played that out.
What did it look like?
yeah.
Lots of ice and shadow. Could we?
Yeah.
Could you just move on?
Badu, when she asks you that question, you can't help but get the visual image in your mind of the cold wraith. There's a chill that runs down your spine as you do so, and there's that whisper in your mind, something that you haven't heard since you had gotten to Rivendell. You hear that whisper. Don't tell her anything. And then it passes. Why don't you make a resolve roll, Badu?
All right, so that's just a regular.
It's a D100 versus equal or less than. Oh.
Why? What is with?
Oh. That is not gonna be good.
Dude, you probably haven't heard that thing in forever, and then it just comes out of nowhere, and you're just like, hell no.
Yeah, you just see it. Yeah, his
Hanging
face
by a
goes
matchstick.
blank, and you see this shake. This large man, probably one of the largest men you've ever seen, and Dunedain are big men, are big people in general. And you see him just visibly shake, like a chill. And you lose 6 resolve, Badu, as well. Get that 100 out of the way, man. Holy crap, man. So anyways, carry on.
Oh, and I got a full 6. Oh my god. Yeah, so you would definitely see Badu. Just his face goes from nervous to just cold, and there's this sort of shudder in his eyes. You can see his pupils dilate, and you can see his eyes start to kind of darting, just shaking ever so slightly, and he freezes in place. And it's the whisper. It comes and then it goes, but for a period of time, it just takes him back some 2 or 3 months before to the events that transpired, and um, he's he shudders at the thought before taking a while to sort of compose himself again, and then he kind of shakes it off, and you can see him come back to his senses, and you can see the light kind of come back to his eyes, and he starts looking around down, mostly downward, nervously at the boy in the cart, and you can see him start to try and busy himself, taking the tarp and trying to wrap the boy up. And he says, "Hey, let's just carry on."
Sure. I can see you know more than you're telling me.
Yes.
In the very least, could you tell me where he died?
Woody, you want to take that one?
Oh, it's a great place. It's an inn called the Forsaken Inn. I think you'll like it.
Oh, I've been there not too long ago. You're saying he was found dead there?
Yeah, down my God, what are they called?
Well,
Thank you. Yeah, it's down at the bottom of a well, covered in ice. Yet could.
In the middle of the summer, we can go more in depth later. Let's just get out of here. And he kind of looks around now as if he's all of a sudden worried about where they are.
All right, very well, but I have to ask, what are you doing traipsing around this marsh? I was looking for Farmer Bill.
I'm looking for the meat that he's carrying.
Well,
Whatever.
whatever.
Ain't gonna cut it.
No, whatever he had, somebody clearly picked it over.
And I'm gonna pick them over.
I don't know. Is there anything else from the scene that you can see that I cannot?
Lily, you're the first one. Even before the ranger finishes, it stands out to you. You've spent a lot of time in the wilds, both as a young hobbit and as you learned herbcraft. You see several, and what gets your attention is probably some sort of mushroom or lichen that grows along the edge of this marsh, and you note it. You go over and you start to collect some of it, and when you look up, you see a bit of arm. It's been severed from a body, and it is lying underneath a bush. Its hands kind of locked in this rigor mortis. Blood just kind of sprayed out across the boss.
You're muted.
Sorry, I don't know why that was up. Billy kind of gives a shiver and calls out, "Come and see this."
I love it.
Oh, that's not good.
I would. There's probably a little bit of a scream there too, like a little. Yeah. Oh my god!
See this?
Yeah, there's Lily yells out. She's probably about 15 or 20 feet away, further off into the marsh. Not far, still well within eyesight of you all. As you approach, you guys see this
amount of gory death.
What?
She's seen a fair amount of gory death by
Yes.
now. It's not the shock it would have been at one time.
Yep, and that's why I'm not making you make a resolve roll, Carol. That's why. But anyways, yeah, and you guys see this dismembered arm.
I think we might have found part of Bill.
And as Lily kind of shrieks, Badu, with instinct, just reaches to his side and grabs the mace that he carries with one hand, his offhand, and looks over to her, and then starts to move over there cautiously, keeping an eye out for anything that might be, still hanging around there, as they come upon this new evidence. And he starts looking around to see if he sees any, signs of a struggle, any, outside of what they've already seen, anything that might indicate a direction or something like that.
Yeah, you can give me a survival roll for that.
Can I give it advantage?
Yep, if you want to help.
Yeah.
Yep. So the two of you spread out and start looking for any sort of sign of trail or whatnot. What are you doing, Wari?
I'd actually head over toward Lily and investigate the arm that's coming up.
So give me an investigation roll.
Coming up. That would
How'd
be
I
something,
get-
yes, that we would do together.
How'd I
Why?
get 2 5s?
I don't know.
With survival, I
Sean,
love
you
it.
should have. Maury should have.
Maybe I
advantage.
should have did the roll. I actually
Please.
have a +5 to mine.
Please.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Go
and you
ahead.
guys, as players, you can definitely step out of character and ask those sorts. Yes, ask those sorts
Maury,
of things.
what is your investigation?
A lot. I just rolled twice.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you've got a good
Yeah.
one there.
So I'm gonna take care of
actually-
Wari first.
I have higher investigation than you do, Maury, but that's fine.
Now it's a game.
You got a 24.
24 is fantastic.
Wari, you see the arm. You would probably guess that probably not big enough to be that of a boy. I mean, that of a man. Probably a boy itself. And as you push past the bush where the arm is hidden by, you find the rest of this body of this youth, probably a little bit older than the boy dead that you found by the wagon. Several arrows have pierced his back. They're black. The feathers, the fletching is ragged, and you quickly recognize it as goblin arrows. And you see that the body has been hacked. The lower part of his legs are missing.
God. I would assume that I probably saw Badu walk off and look around for trouble. And if he did, and I saw the goblin arrows, I'd immediately say that and just be like, "Goblins!"
Yeah, maybe that's what distracted you initially, Badu, as you started to help the ranger search. She keeps looking as you turn your head to look towards Lily and Wari. Lothario, you're focused at the task at hand. You hear the dwarf yell out, but you only partially listen, and you see the trail before you. You can see that whatever efforts were meant to cover the trail by the side of the road was also taken here. Several creatures have passed this way. You hear the word goblin yelled, so you would guess goblins. Head further into the marsh through a rough trail. You see that they seem to be skirting the wetter bogs and staying to the drier land. But there's little and far between here in the marshes.
She looks over to the Bjorning. What was your name again?
And Badu looks back from his friends back to Letherial. Got it. And
We'll get it, guys.
we'll get it. And he kind of taken aback by her question, not registering at first, taking a second, and then registering what she asked him. Says, "Oh, Badu."
Looks like I found a trail.
Hey, goblins are like rodents. They're bound to leave something.
Yeah. They're clever little rodents. Might have to postpone that burial. We've gotten probably a few days ahead of us.
And Badu would look back and kind of gesture to Wari and Lily that they found something.
Lily'd be like, well, we can't just leave the bodies out for the wolves to eat.
Yeah, and you hear the buzzing of flies too, as well, um, around this corpse, just like the boys by the wagon.
We'll need to protect them anyway.
Hey, if you want, we can roll them up in the tarp, but there's not much left to bury.
Yes, and you can't really bury people in a marsh.
Hey, let's pack them up, and then if they're still here, when we come back, we'll take them.
We could turn the wagon over them, roll them up,
Hey,
cover them with
sounds
the
good.
wagon, protect what we can until we have a chance to take it back.
All right.
Badu would definitely do his part in going over, being the big burly man, would go over and just move the cart, position the cart, and then once they had, kind of moved everything over there and wrapped the two bodies up in what was left of the tarp, he would pull it down over them and kind of secure it, maybe like push it, rut it into the mud a little bit so nothing could kind of weasel its way in there very well.
Lothariel helps.
Yeah, you take some time, and I think that's pretty mundane. You guys would be able to do that. So you get the boys, the remains of these boys taken care of, and covered by the remains of this cart. And what now will you all do?
I mark the cart. Farmer Bill's boys.
Yeah, you probably scribble it across it with charcoal.
I just wanted to see if there was anything identifying that the boys left in their pockets, or papers or trinkets or anything like that.
Oh yeah, you can give me. Actually, you don't need to give me a roll because you guys, it would be pretty mundane for you to kind of go through. You're not being pressured in any way. You find the boy that was dismembered and under the bush. You find a simple necklace with a like a silver, like a medallion. It seems to be some sort of coin, but it's an older coin than. What's an ancient? Well, you're a treasure hunter, so you would probably be able to recognize that this is an ancient coin. And you can see where someone had used a nail or something to punch a hole through it, so that he could put a leather thong and wear it as a necklace. It must have been missed by the goblins when they butchered them.
Okay, I'll take it with me just in case for like an ID or something maybe later on.
Yep. So will you follow the trail of the goblins, or do you?
Yeah, I imagine after we've kind of set things right over here, kind of cleaned up a little bit, we would probably start to head that way. And if, assuming that he's able to follow it, Badu would take the front. If not, then he would take the back.
Yeah.
Lothariel would probably take the front since you found it.
Yeah, then he would bring up the rear to definitely just make sure that there's nothing coming up behind them or anything like that.
Perfect. So what I'm going to need from you, Lothariel, is a couple of survival rolls. If Badu or anyone else is going to aid you, then you would have advantage.
I think I'm okay.
Yep. Yeah. You travel probably about 100 or so yards into the marsh, and you follow this trail. It's a little difficult. Maybe you stop for a moment or two, kind of hunker down close to the ground and pull over and twist over some of the earth, and then you see the marks that you are looking for. But after that, you notice that any attempts that were made before to hide their trail seem to have the efforts have stopped. The trail is much more available to, or aware. You're more aware of the trail now, and you follow it through most of the rest of the afternoon. And as the sun begins to the sunlight begins to wane, and thoughts of establishing a camp, the murmurs of "it's getting late, we must start a camp," and you hear the crickets, frogs, and ahead of you, you see a small, you can hear the trickling of a small stream or brook as it kind of meanders its way through this marsh. You would know that off in the distance, more heading towards the Amansul and whatnot, a great river, and empties itself into the Midgewater. And this is probably one of the smaller rivers. As you draw closer, you see that there is a bridge has been erected across this. It's probably about 15 feet across, and the bridge itself is just a log that had been it's been kind of flattened across the top, and it's probably about 2 to 3 feet wide.
Would we have time, and if so, would this be a place that Lily could toss a fishing line in for a few minutes?
Yeah, as you get closer, maybe your belly starts to grumble. You have not eaten much. You've maybe nibbled on some rations as you've made your way. The ranger seems to set a pretty fast pace, but you're used to it. You've traveled with a ranger before, and they're all
Right.
business when they're on the path, on the trail of something. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
would
don't-
we like to set camp around that bridge?
It seems to be higher ground.
Yeah.
Not quite as infested with these little bogs that create all these little biting insects. You still would probably have to deal with some of them, but it probably would be a better place. You could give me a survival roll if you think it might be a good campsite.
Okay.
And I'll also need a perception roll from you, Lothario, as you
Right.
leading this group. You're not certain.
get-
You're not certain about. Oh wait, do you get
Well,
advantage?
I get advantage with detecting enemies.
Yep. Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
What's your passive?
yeah.
15.
Yeah. So just something you should know. So we run with passive abilities here.
Yeah.
So in most instances, your passive score, you can't roll under your passive score unless there's some sort of circumstance that adjusts it. But I'll adjust it behind the scenes for y'all. Yeah, you look and you would see what you've made many a camp in your time. You think that would be an adequate camp. Maybe Lily mumbles something about maybe throwing in a line and catching some fish, and you seem to think that more likely than not, you would there'd be a good opportunity to maybe catch some fish and
Some frogs.
yeah, frogs. Yeah, yeah. I don't think I'd want to eat a frog, but
Frog
Frog
legs are supposed to be
legs.
very good.
Oh, yeah, they
Oh,
are
yeah.
pretty good. I've actually cleaned a frog, too.
oh really? Okay, we'll talk about that off stream.
Yeah.
But
What would I roll on the fishing thing?
all right, so yeah, you're already starting to reach into your pack as you're doing that. You're and Lothario, as you move forward and trying to find a best spot to camp, you immediately notice the spatterings of blood across the vegetation before you. There seems to be this path of crimson that leads off to the south, off into this small copse of small, like twisted and gnarled trees. And so this would be south of where the bridge is.
Is it fresh?
You reach down, you touch it. It's still wet. It hasn't even gotten sticky, congealed yet. It's fairly fresh. You would probably say within a few hours. So it probably would be a little sticky.
Got something fresh, fellas.
Oh boy.
Few hours fresh.
I
Looks
put
like
the-
they're heading south.
Do you think we should just go?
Would that
Do
be
you know if I-
along the river or across the river, Lionel?
That would be before the river.
So they would be heading along the river? For which direction the blood trailed
According
off?
to this trail, the trail actually runs parallel with the direction that this
Gotcha.
river runs. And it's like, again, it's probably not big enough to be called a river. It's probably more of a stream.
A stream, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we just follow it? I don't want something out there without us knowing what's going on.
Aye. We should at least go for a ways and then maybe come back if we don't find anything.
Yeah, is there a lot of tree cover around here?
Yeah. This is, like I said, the ground here the elevation is a little bit higher than most of the other lower lying parts of this Midgewater. The only thing, and that's what this river, I mean, right now I'm calling it a river. The stream cuts through it, but yeah, there's more trees growing here. There's more vegetation that's growing up here. The air's a little bit fresher. It's not that much more elevated, but it's a little bit of a relief from the marsh itself.
Could I maybe, if we're going to follow them, try to find an advantageous spot to like get up in a tree and see what I can see from a ways away?
Yeah, you spot a little tree. It's probably about 15 or so feet high. It's gnarled and twisted like many of the trees around here, but you could scamper up. Just give me a pretty simple climb check.
You need a leg up, Master Dwarf?
Nah, I'm all right.
Of course.
Athletics or acrobatics?
Athletics, yeah.
Oh, so maybe I will. Let's find out.
Lily puts the fish line back in her pack. Oh, this is going on. Looking a little sad.
Not bad.
Yeah, you scamper up the tree pretty easily. You get up to the top. It sways a little bit under your weight, but as you look forward, give me a perception roll. Yeah, you get up there and you kind of squint your eyes, but your eyes are fairly good in this dimmer light as of the setting sun. And you look and you don't see, not far away, probably 24 paces, you see some hunkered, shadowed forms.
24 paces, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I would probably see that and think it was a little too close and now try to come down extra quiet.
Yeah. So you make your way down this tree to your waiting companions.
All right. And I'd actually walk up to them really close and start whispering just so they'd probably get the idea that something was on, and just be like, there's a group of figures a couple dozen paces that way.
Oh, that's really close.
Closer than I thought.
And Badu grabs his axe from his back and pulls it out.
Well, I guess it's showtime.
Indeed it is.
Let's go see who they are. Maybe they're not goblins. Maybe they're, I don't know.
Anyone that's trying to go down that way with some sort of stealth, can you give me a stealth roll?
Yeah, I want to put my string in my bow and stealth my way down there, which I will.
Let's fan out and try to surround them.
Yeah, it would be near impossible. It's a very narrow, almost like a choke point as it goes south. It's probably only about 15 feet wide before the trees. Especially if you guys want to do it quietly. You think that deadfall in there would make it really hard. So far, pretty good.
I can stealth,
I'll
but
try.
I got a survival roll.
I'm going to take the average for the party. Yeah, so I think with Lily and Wari's roll, it actually rounds out to a fairly decent stealth. So you guys move your way quietly forward, and as you probably go about 10 feet, 12 feet, and then you smell and hear the buzzing of flies. As you draw closer, you see that the forms are actually the corpses of a horse and a man laying out across the turf. You see blood pooled under the man, and you see that the horse has been butchered, parts of it cut free and carried off.
Not again.
I guess that's Farmer Bill.
I guess so. Lily would like to do an examination to see how long ago this poor man and his horse were killed. So medicine.
Medicine. Yeah.
Rory would like to like go away around it and see what else is like around.
Yeah. Your best guess, you would say within a few hours.
Long enough that they wouldn't be immediately in front of us if they kept moving.
Well, the path ends here at these corpses. It's kind of this copse of trees. There's no outlet other than the way you came. And
So
I'm sorry, Emily. What were you doing?
I was rolling a survival check. I was kind of trying to figure out how it worked out this way. They were run down a wagon, and they must have choked them down into this point, but...
Yeah, I think by your best guess, maybe this man tried to get away on this horse and was brought down by the goblins and butchered for it, not realizing that he had come into a dead end. That would be your best guess, but that's all it is.
So we really don't know where they are.
How long has he been dead?
I believe it was a couple hours.
Yeah, I'm going to leave that to Lily to explain.
Well, by looking at the blood here, it's coagulated up fairly well. He hasn't really gone into rigor mortis, but it's been
Lily took MD.
Hey, she's a master scholar, man. She's not just a nobody.
Cue her sitcom music now.
No, it's
Looking
just
at the morgue.
she's excited thinking about it. Yeah,
I was thinking more like Quincy for all you people that are old enough to remember that show. It's a classic. If you could find it, watch it. It's really good. Very sexist though. Very sexist. So I'm just gonna let you know that. Anyways, back to the game.
It's been a while. Like maybe several hours, but not terribly long.
Is it Farmer Bill?
I would assume so. I don't know who else we would have followed from the side of the wagon, except him and the goblins. Or if it...
But if it was Farmer Bill, why would he leave his two boys behind?
I don't know.
It could be someone else entirely.
Who's nearest to the body of the man?
That would be me.
Investigation.
Me and her kind of looking over her shoulder.
You want
I imagine
investigation?
I imagine me and Warrior are kind of like.
I can give you advantage if you want.
Yeah. Can we do that?
Yeah. Yeah, anytime it's the help. It's a help action. So anytime
Help.
you guys help each
Yeah.
other, you can give advantage to the
Well,
other.
that was a good time to have advantage.
Yeah, Lily almost efficiently and forensically grabs the head of this deceased man and rolls it up so that you guys can see it. It is truly indeed Farmer Bill.
Yes.
But you also notice, Lily, with that roll of a 19, you also notice that bound around his hands are the remnants of rope.
Oh, look,
It
he
looks
was
as though it
tied.
had been cut or worked free. Yeah.
That adds something to it. He'd been tied and gotten away. Maybe that's why he left the boys. They took him.
Why
I
would
mean,
they
we've been
take-
tracking. Our tracking included the goblins, though, didn't it?
Yes.
As we knew. So, I don't know.
Well, they're around here somewhere.
And very dangerous. Do we have any idea how many goblins we've been following?
Have they been doing that thing where they go in a straight line so we don't know their
Yeah.
numbers?
Yeah, that's what they do.
Don't give him
In
it
a
out.
far off universe, they would go, oh, 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 and they would ride these big banthas.
Oh, we should have some idea. Whether it was like
There are
10 or 50.
I can't honestly. I can't remember what the survival roll was that you rolled, Emily. But I would
I
say you would
mean-
probably guess anywhere from a half dozen to a dozen goblins.
Mm,
That'd be like you would consider it. Well, you would know Lothariel that that's like a average size to a goblin war party would be, or a hunting party. By hunting, I mean
scouting
they hunt-
party.
No, not a scouting party. They would be smaller if it was the smaller end of it. But you think that it's probably a war party. So that would be probably close to a dozen.
Did they have any sign of wargs?
Not that the rangers saw.
No, just goblins. Maybe up to a dozen.
That's good, because if they're afoot, they're far less dangerous than if they're riding wargs.
Well, they could still be dangerous without wargs. But
Oh, I know.
I suppose we'll set up camp for tonight and continue from here. Sorry, Farmer Bill.
I love that. There's that moment, the circle of life, right? Circle of life. Yeah, nothing else can be done for Farmer Bill. You know that, but the light is fading and better to make your camp. Are you guys planning to make a cold camp without a fire?
With the goblins possibly being so near.
Yeah.
I would tend towards that.
Well, actually, we need to cook the fish with.
Oh, we haven't caught any yet. But we can hope.
Unless you want sushi.
I think they should be cooked. It's pretty marshy here. I doubt that they would be that good.
Quick question. Mounts. Did you guys bring your ponies and horse with you?
I didn't have a horse.
Right. Well, that would make sense because most rangers probably don't ride horses anyways, unless they were traveling longer distances. But the others, they had ponies, and Badu has a horse, a rather large horse.
I was wondering that earlier. About how far have we traveled?
Several
from
hours
the
into the
wagon?
marsh, you would say.
Well, like from when we left the inn.
Yeah, so the inn is, so you guys were a good half day's travel when you came across the ranger. You were kind of
Okay. And we weren't like home basing at the inn and doing a short trip for Farmer Bill, so
Nope.
we would have the horses and ponies.
Yeah.
No,
If we're traveling somewhere.
when I did that little fast forward, I was thinking that it was probably what happened off camera is that there was this, Farmer Bill, you kind of heard it from those gentlemen that were talking, and Jack maybe talked a little bit about it. I'm sure Badu did a little bit of that smiling to Jack, and he said, yeah, he hasn't been here. And there's probably some sort of loose, like, well, we'll look, we're on our way to Bree. But you guys are kind of pressured anyways by what you guys hope to accomplish. So you guys just happened to be making your way when you came across the same trail that Letheriel
Plus my
did.
footprints.
Yeah, well, they would have seen those all kind of mixed in. Oh, man walks with them. Yeah. But yeah, so
Probably
that's
would've
when you
had
came across her. So yeah, so I'd say you're several miles into this marsh. It's tough to say because
can't
it's not a
see
straight
if-
path. It's kind of a winding path as you try to stay to the drier.
I can't see us leaving our horses behind with the goblins out there.
You
They'd have
most
been
likely would be
dim-
leading them through most of
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think so. And we might have. I imagine that after we saw that it wasn't right there, somebody would have probably gone back and grabbed them and brought them along, and we could bring them down now into the
Perfect.
little encampment.
So that brings me to my next thing. As you guys prepare to make your camp, you walk back out of this narrow pathway out to the more where it widens up a bit and leads towards this bridge and small stream. I need everybody to make a perception check. And anyone that does not have dark vision needs to make it at disadvantage because the light is dim right now.
I think that's everyone except the dwarf.
Yeah.
I got the same one.
Holy
on both.
crap, that is awesome.
Lily's on her game.
Yeah.
She's thinking goblin. She's wide awake.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Her eyes are double big. Is that?
I technically got a
Her
13.
bow is ready.
Yeah. Her. I was gonna. It's the pipe leaf she smokes. It helps her see better.
And she did get some new weed when she
What?
was at Rivendell.
Yeah, Lothario, what?
You stocked up. You have a whole backpack just of weed.
I just said I have a 13.
Yeah.
I have a
Perfect.
canister on my pony full of weed. You know, like a little barrel.
Lily, you're the
I have
first
a pipe
to
smoker.
I wish I'd never said that. Now we're like totally distracted.
Sorry.
Lily, you're the first one to kind of trot out, probably wanting to get away from the smell and the visage. Plus, you got this blood on your hands from where you and the ranger, Stormcrow, inspected the body. And you want to wash it clean in the stream, but you stop short when you hear the murmur of voices off in the distance. You can't see anything, but you can hear it. It's probably carried because it's fairly quiet.
Hold up the one hand.
Wari's not far behind you, and he hears it as well. And almost probably the same time you're putting your hand up, Wari is hearing it himself.
And he
I
puts
have
a hand on
60.
someone else.
Yeah.
I do have 60-foot dark vision too, if that matters.
Okay, so you would see these hunkered forms across the bridge, and they seem to be crouched near one another in a conversation. And then you see a third one come up, speaking gruffly to them. You see him swat and hit one, and then they stand to full height, and you see them gathering gear.
How tall are they? My size?
They are larger than goblins.
Okay. I'd probably just watch them for an extra 5 seconds to see where they're going. Are they going to cross the bridge toward us, head away from us, something like that?
No, the two of them, the two that were hunkered down, exchange a conversation between the two of them. The third is already walking away, away from the stream, and the other two are just, they have this conversation and then they turn and they start to walk that way as well.
Can we hear the conversation, the language at all?
I think Wari and Lily would notice it immediately. They speak the black speech of the orc.
Okay.
I don't know if either of them speak Orcish, but if not, they would just hear the guttural.
Gotcha. No work for me, but okay. I'm pretty sure I'll recognize it just by bull
And
crap.
Lily knows a few words of almost every language.
Yep.
So she might pick out a couple words here and there.
Yeah, you catch like one of the foul words. One seems to be talking disparagingly towards the leader that walks away,
Yeah, something about his mother.
and the other one, just chuckles. They both have this big, heavy shafted spear, and they start to make their way, following after.
All right. Probably. I'd probably just turn and kind of wait for everybody to catch up ish. So we're all in one area, and then I'm sure Lily and I would probably just be like, "They're orcs." Orcs.
What do you see with your dwarf eyes? Orcs?
He would whisper just to make sure that they couldn't hear them, and just say, "There's orcs, at least 3 of them."
Excellent. And Stormcrow starts walking forward, pulling out his longsword.
Oh shit!
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
I'd probably turn to Badu and be like, "Hello."
Yeah, Stormcrow, as you start to move forward, you're halfway to this bridge, and you hear this as arrows whip past you, one hitting the ground and the other clattering through a tree. Everyone, we are not going to roll for initiative, but you hear the yells of alarm, and that is where we're going to end this session.
There it is.
Lily wants to hide.
Of course,
Regular
Lily's going to hide.
Yeah.
Regular hiding.
This is no
That
place
was
for
great.
hide.
Stormcrow, I
There is
did
trees
not
around.
expect you to do that. Anyways, I want to take this moment to say thank you to my players. This is a good start. It's a slow start, but I want it to be a slow boil, kind of percolate in session 1. But we're going to open up session 2 with what happens with Stormcrow and her new friends when these goblins and orcs aren't too keen on them. So anyways, thank you for playing, and thank you for anyone that watches this.